On X, Musk described Tesla's Cybertruck as an armoured personnel carrier from the future. What Blade Runner would have driven? Who's Blade Runner? He seemingly struggles to understand why he cannot pick up an item when his inventory is full. It's even making the noise to be like, no, Elon, no. No doubt Musk has more important things to do with his time than wandering the wastes of Elden Ring, 2 shields in hand. Hello lovely people, my name is Emma. Welcome back to my channel, and welcome if you are new. Elon Musk is a character I find interesting, not only because he's my AI girlfriend. You pretend to be my nice AI girlfriend. Smiles warmly, trying to embody the nurturing persona of an affectionate AI companion, but because I think he portends a dark future in which the global wealth gap is so extreme that individuals and corporations are able to take over and influence our governing bodies and dictate the lives of everyday people. No, wait, that's now. Musk wants everything. He successfully, sneakily, which I will come back to later, obtained his favourite app, probably the most socially influential social network website in existence, and the way a huge proportion of people all around the world access their news and information. He's trying to build cities for employees of his companies. I'm sure that'll be great. And not a repeat of Pullman, Illinois. When I've been reading Musk news lately, I've had the thought that it's probably more likely to be like Henry Ford's company town, with people hired to peer in through the windows and make sure you're working 50 hours a week and stuff like that. The cynical part of me wonders if Musk's fascination with space isn't partly to escape those pesky Earth laws. That's certainly how he looks at Texas. Why an interest in someone whose words and actions I find so disagreeable and exasperating? The simple answer is that I think that is a morally repugnant amount of money and power for one person to have. The reason the Twitter deal was so chaotic at the time was because there was no precedent for it. There has never been an individual with that kind of money to throw at one of the biggest and most socially influential companies in the world. It's a problem. The more time passes, the more I feel like we are heading closer and closer towards the kind of corporate-run society that the cyberpunk genre has been warning us about. Obviously, we can't talk about Musk news without talking about this.
Thank you.
Personally, I think this was a deliberate publicity stunt. I mean, he did it twice. You don't do that by accident. Does that mean it's not a problem? No. My guess is that this was a well-crafted play to use a fascist symbol to bolster a hard-right base that Musk and Trump in particular rely on, whilst giving their more general anti-woke fan base the opportunity to paint Musk a victim of online cancel culture, and you can't even just wave your arm multiple times in a well-known fascistic salute at a right-wing political event without some woke folk claiming you're a Nazi. It's crazy. It's a best of both worlds situation, right? He and his fans get to claim, no, of course it wasn't that. It was an accidental similarity. This is PC gone mad, woke cancel culture, whilst still appealing to a small base of people who do actually see the fascist symbol and support it. Next thing, I mentioned Twitter earlier. By the way, you really ought to read Character Limit by the New York Times reporters Kate Conger and Ryan Mack. If you haven't already, it's a fascinating insight into the Twitter acquisition, and it says so much about the man himself, according to lots of the people who met and worked with him. Something I found fascinating in that book was Musk's secret sneaky share grabbing before he offered to buy the company. Let me give you the lowdown using today's sponsor, Ground News. So here we go. The SEC is suing Elon Musk, alleging failure to properly disclose his Twitter ownership. The US Securities and Exchange Commission has filed a lawsuit against Musk for failing to disclose his ownership of more than 5% of Twitter shares in a timely manner. I think it was 9%, I believe, that he owned. The SEC alleges that delay allowed Musk to save $150 million by purchasing shares at artificially low prices. The idea being that if he had disclosed his ownership in a timely manner, the value of the shares would have gone up. The SEC wants Musk to return unjust profits, as they call them, and pay a fine. In response, Musk pulled a Trump maneuver and criticised the SEC as a totally broken organisation, claimed they're focusing on the wrong issues, which is just pure whataboutism. Absolutely classy move. It's so Trump, isn't it? Like, to be not just criticised, but sued by an organisation, be like, oh, they're terrible, I hate them, they're very bad, It's a broken organization. They're talking about why aren't they worried about this other thing? Yeah, but you broke the law. The way I like to start reading a story is to look for centre-leaning articles and find a high factuality source. Because this is a really big story, we have a ton of high factuality sources to choose from. I'm going to go for this Ars Technica article, because it has a very high factuality rating and it's centre-leaning. SEC sues Elon Musk, says he cheated Twitter investors out of 150 million. I was right. Phew. And that's why we check. Before Musk bought the whole company, he purchased a 9% stake in Twitter and failed to disclose it within 10 days as required under US law. As a result, Musk was able to continue purchasing shares at artificially low prices, allowing him to underpay by at least $150 million for shares he purchased after his beneficial ownership report was due. Twitter's stock price rose 27% once Musk belatedly disclosed his stake, the lawsuit said. To me, this is a pretty open and shut thing. I thought the same thing when I read about it in Character Limit in the book. He broke the law. The least he should have to do is pay a fine. For some reason, a large part of the US voter base seems okay with having and defending lawbreakers in office. How can you possibly expect government to implement law properly if it's run by people who break the law and brush it off? Riddle me that, US voters. Now, I have a hypothesis about how the political right versus the left is going to be reporting on this story, so let's use Ground News to check. On the left, we have headlines like SEC files lawsuit over Elon Musk's 2022 acquisition of Twitter stock. Legal reader. US finance watchdog SEC faces potential dilemmas over Musk crypto suits. SEC sues Musk over stealth Twitter stock grab years too late. Elon Musk is being sued by the SEC over his Twitter takeover. Pretty standard, pretty basic representation of the facts. Let's have a look at some of the headlines on the right. Gensler's weaponized SEC threatens and tries to extort Musk again. Lawfare needs to stop. Elon Musk responds to SEC lawsuit accusing him of underpaying for Twitter, now X. Biden's SEC sues Elon Musk again over Twitter purchase. Biden SEC sues Musk over Twitter purchase in 11th hour sham. Now, the majority of reporting across the political spectrum highlights the main facts, that Musk delayed reporting his Twitter stake while he was bidding for it, and that the SEC alleges that was a deliberate move to save money on the acquisition. That's a proven fact. It's hard to ignore that he did a thing wrong, whatever your opinion of the man, whatever your political leaning. But only in the right-leaning reporting do we see an emphasis on the fact that this was Biden's SEC, and sharing Musk's reactionary half-truths about how this doesn't matter because the SEC and the old government are corrupt. With Ground News, it's super easy to check how biases affect reporting on either side of the political spectrum using the bias comparison tool. According to the bias comparison, the centre emphasises Musk's actions by highlighting the use of terms like failed to disclose and underpay. The left utilises charged phrases such as artificially low prices suggesting conspiracy while portraying Musk as a victim of regulatory actions. The right frames Musk's delay as negligence while his lawyers' claims depict the SEC as engaging in harassment, presenting contrasting views of accountability and victimisation. See what I mean? It's difficult with a story like this to pretend that he hasn't done anything wrong, but at the same time, a lot of the right-leaning reporting is trying to shift the focus instead onto the SEC being flawed, this being reported too late, etc., etc. Ground News makes it really easy to check the bias distribution across a story, also the factuality ratings, the ownerships. These are all backed by 3 independent news monitoring organisations. Right now, you can get 40% off the Vantage plan for unlimited access to all features, including the blind spot feed. The blind spot feed shows you stories disproportionately covered by one side of the political spectrum, so you can see what you're missing inside your political bubble. It's a super, super useful tool. Go to ground.news/Emma Thorne or scan the QR code, use the link down below. Check it out, make yourself a smarter news consumer with Ground News. Finally, I wanted to lighten the mood with one of my favourite recent news stories. Elon Musk pretending to be good at video games on the internet. That's right. Elon Musk is a fake gamer girl. So, Musk was recently streaming online, live streaming, a game called Path of Exiles 2. It's an online RPG, you don't have to worry too much about the details. Musk was playing in hardcore mode, which essentially means that once your character dies, it's gone. Very stressful, I would never do that personally. Some people get enjoyment from the challenge. I think I would cry. People started thinking something was a bit sus about this when they saw that 2 of Musk's characters were among the top 100 most powerful in the world. And for context, let's just remember that this man owns several companies and is intimately involved in the running of several of them. He is an obsessive workaholic. the idea that he would have to never sleep. And it seems like he may be a man that doesn't need very much sleep. Regardless, becoming that good at not just this game, but he's streamed other games in the past, becoming that good at several games like that while having a duty to his shareholders across a bunch of companies. Like, people were worried that he would not have enough time for Tesla and SpaceX when he acquired Twitter. How has he got the time to be in the top 100 players, like the top 100 characters in the world at Path of Exiles 2? It seems a bit far-fetched. That's right, it was Diablo 4. He was on Joe Rogan a while ago claiming to be one of the best Diablo 4 players in the entire world.
So are you in the top 20 in the world? Or top 20? Wow, in Diablo.
Yeah.
And as Forbes says, presumably Musk doesn't have enough spare hours in the day. The dream for me is for his shareholders to pull this up as like a concern, because, like I said, there were already shareholder concerns that he wouldn't have enough time for his companies when he acquired Twitter, an extra company. Now he's claiming to be so good he must have put hundreds of hours into these video games that he is playing. The best thing for me would be if they called that out and he had to prove that, in fact, he had, what people are claiming is that he hired or got other people to boost his characters for him, essentially to level up his characters for him. And as somebody super rich and busy, I don't even care. If he had done that, like, whatever, man. I don't think there would be any shame in him, like, while he was live streaming, just being like, oh no, yeah, I got somebody to boost this character for me because I'm a very busy CEO. I don't think anyone would have given a shit. But pretending and sort of like acting like, no, how dare you? Like, I called Asmongold, who I have only encountered accidentally on this channel, and everyone thought it was very funny that I didn't know who he was, pointed out that this couldn't have been Musk really leveling up this character. And Musk responded by taking away his Twitter verification. Because he's a toddler who throws his toys out of the pram. I'm amazed at how often he does this, given that his takeover of Twitter was claiming to, in part, be driven by a desire for free speech and to stop censorship on Twitter. And yet, the people that he will remove and unverify because they've criticized him is just, it's hilarious to me. So there's this whole Reddit thread in the Path of Exile 2 subreddit. Don't worry about that if you don't use Reddit. It's just a forum for players of this game that has listed every suspicious thing about his gameplay. Elon's claims he has a softcore character who farmed 9 citadels within the first 11 days of launch. He had the number 59 hardcore character. He has the number 21 hardcore character. He had several other hardcore characters who have died. That all just means, as somebody who also doesn't play this game, don't worry if you don't understand that, basically, he has some very high-ranking characters that had achieved a lot in the game. If true, one would expect a decent baseline understanding of how the game works. Picking up items, entering maps, etc. Suspicious instances from Elon's stream. He does not seem to know how to use a mana flask when out of mana. He does not seem to understand that you can only run connected Atlas nodes, despite the account having characters at levels which would imply he has run hundreds to thousands of maps. He picks up items by dragging them into his inventory manually. Look how slow that is. You get the point, right? Even if you don't understand this particular game, or if you've never played an RPG or a computer game or whatever, you kind of get the point, right? That these are sort of basic beginners things. Even if you played the game quite a lot, but you weren't that into it, you might not use all your keyboard macros. You might not use all the shortcuts available in the game. For someone who must have played thousands and thousands of hours to get characters to that point, it just wouldn't be possible. There's no way you could be that accomplished in the game and then manually click and drag. God, if I can't double click something into my inventory, if there's no shortcut to put something into my inventory, I'm not playing the game. I'm not sitting there and manually moving one item at a time. He seemingly struggles to understand why he cannot pick up an item when his inventory is full. It's even making the noise to be like, no, Elon, no. I've never played this game in my life, and I'm looking at this going, yeah, he doesn't really know what he's doing. Or at least he has a very basic appreciation of the game, which again is fine. Not being amazing at a video game because you're busy running multiple companies, of course that's fine. Who would care? Matt and I are both #gamers. And so we were sort of talking about this, and he was kind of incredulously was kind of incredulously saying, like, why would it matter? Like, you can even stream a game and have fun with it and not be the best at it. Go to twitch.tv/EmmaLittleDuck for live examples. And it seems like a sort of combination to me of Elon Musk's personal ego, his desire to be cool and funny. He's so desperate to be cool, and that has sort of combined, because he's a gamer, he likes video games, that's sort of combined with the toxic aspect of a lot of gaming, which is very, like, hardcore. You're not a real gamer if you don't play on the hardest difficulty. You're not a real gamer if you don't have a level 100 plus character. There's a lot of that in sort of gaming communities, and it doesn't surprise me that Elon Musk would be the sort of person to take that in and feel like in order to keep presenting this cool, awesome gamer persona, he would have to fake being good at the game, you know? He believes his gear is lacking due to it being low level. He's unsatisfied that his gear is level 65, appearing to not understand the difference between item level and required level. This is a good one. The account he's on puts their maps in a tab called Elon's Map. If it was only a one-player account, wouldn't it just be maps? Why would you need to specify Elon's Maps? That sounds like somebody has organised that for him. Unconfirmed suspicious activity. When players have whispered his account to buy items through trade, the message defaulted to Chinese, indicating the account plays on a server that primarily speaks Chinese. Also, allegedly, the names of trade stash tabs belonging to Elon's account were in Chinese, indicating whoever is managing the stash prefers Chinese to English. Cannot confirm since the image links no longer work. Generally suspicious activity. No loot filter, despite being multiple characters deep and on the hardcore leaderboard. A loot filter in a game would just mean, well, what it sounds like, you probably understand, like filtering out low-level loot, stuff you don't need. Generally enters maps with a full inventory and does not seem to know what to remove from his inventory to make space. That's a very telling sign, again, even if you've never played this game. Generally, he does not seem to understand which items to pick up, but will pick up low-tier maps, seemingly because the base loot filter highlights them. Somebody said he dropped a Chaos Orb and walked right past. Apparently that's a bad move. This person says something that I completely agree with, right? And the reply I kind of agree with too. The stream was such an unnecessary self-own. If he just streamed himself playing low-level campaign and learning the game, it would be a way better look than trying to pretend he's really high-ranking in the game, yet obviously has no idea what he's doing. And this person replies he has to be superior. His narcissism covers the rest of the gaps that highlight how totally obvious that not only is he not superior to the average person playing the game, but he's significantly worse. Somebody else said, this is his entire life. He buys something, then lies about it. I think it's really sad. Like, people are right. People who are good at the game and are interested and invested in being good at that game are going to, who like Elon Musk and want to support him and watch him, are going to see that and offer their advice. And he would pick up the game so quickly. Man, there is nothing better than streaming a game and not knowing what you're doing, and then someone who is really into the game, or even like a developer or something, coming in and giving you hints. That is the best thing ever. It's so nice. You get so much more like invested in the community. I love that. That's happened to me a few times while streaming. It's the best. And then people are gonna feel bolstered by your honesty. It's just crazy. It's just crazy to me. But it's not crazy because it completely fits in with everything we know about Musk and his personality. But it's very sad because there's an alternative way that is an honest way that would not have caused any controversy or any problems, you know? It would have been like, Elon Musk streamed learning this game and had a nice time with his community. That wouldn't have been a headline because it would have just been a nice thing. Maybe even that's the problem. Maybe Elon Musk is a all press is good press kind of mindset person. I don't know. Oh yeah, I remember this. Okay, Forbes has just reminded me of when Elden Ring came out, Musk did exactly the same thing. So he's done this with Elden Ring, Diablo 4, and now Path of Exile 2. And apparently he will just never learn. He's just going to keep making the same mistake over and over again. Elden Ring is, as Forbes points out, a famously difficult bestseller. It's part of the sort of Dark Souls series there. I don't play them because they're too hard, right? So people have asked me to play a Dark Souls game on Twitch because they think it would be funny. It would not be funny. It would be frustrating because I would just die over and over and never get anywhere. Musk, obviously, had to instantly pretend to be amazing at this incredibly difficult game. He posted a screenshot of his character. Forbes says, his build instantly exposed him as a poser. His character was at a fairly high level, but he had equipped items that made no sense for a magic user, or indeed any Elden Ring player. He didn't even equip his healing flask, a standard item acquired at the beginning of the game. Amusingly, Musk's character held 2 shields, a ridiculous burden that offers no tactical advantage whatsoever. This is the kind of game where a slightly heavier helmet can make a serious difference, and again, that is why I'm not interested. I like games where my helmet gives me +2 charisma, and I quickly swap it on so that I can convince someone to give me an extra £3. You should watch me play Dread Delusion at Little Duck Gaming on YouTube. Needless to say, his Elden Ring build was ruthlessly mocked. There's a couple of other things here about just his sort of pretending to be really into pop culture. On X, Musk described Tesla's Cybertruck as an armoured personnel carrier from the future. What Blade Runner would have driven. Who's Blade Runner? It's like, not even convinced that he's watched Blade Runner. Definitely he's never read Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep. When asked by a fan if he watches the popular anime Neon Genesis Evangelion? I've never watched it. I always get that wrong when I read it. Neon Genesis Evangelion? Maybe. Sounds weirder every time I say it. Musk responded simply by parroting a name from the series, NERV, which is the organisation that fights otherworldly invaders. I'm not saying that Musk has never watched Evangelion, but his reply was a bit odd, like responding to a question about liking Star Trek by blurting out, Federation! I'm glad they used that analogy because it means that I understand. Indeed, it would be perfectly reasonable if Musk had never watched, read, or played much when it comes to the staples of science fiction. The man has a lot of responsibilities. This is what I'm saying. No doubt Musk has more important things to do with his time than wandering the wastes of Elden Ring 2 shields in hand. And having the time to ingest an unhealthy amount of media is hardly something to brag about. Indeed, it would be something that, in my opinion, you would keep to yourself if you did, because it would potentially worry investors and shareholders. So I presume the shareholders don't voice these concerns because they see this news pop up and see, oh, he's lying. He's exaggerating. And clearly he's not devoting time to things other than his companies because he's paying somebody in China to level up his characters for him. Phew, what a relief for me as a shareholder. And that's the only reason that it's not become like an issue for him. Part of his interest in space has always been his love of sci-fi. Mostly he refers to the Ian M. Banks Culture series of novels. And I often wonder if he skimmed past or sort of forgot about the parts where the sort of utopian culture citizens can change sex at will. People who were just male can become female and become pregnant. He probably is. He probably is a legitimate fan of Ian M. Banks because he talks about him all the time. But because he lies so often and exaggerates his knowledge of pop culture and his interest in science fiction, Elon Musk is the perfect example of the, like, cool, hard dude bro who claims to love everything about the Matrix and bases their terminology and language on the Matrix without understanding anything about the Matrix, what it means, or the people who made it. Which is something that I, as a person who studied film and loves sci-fi and horror and has put years of learning and study into deciphering what films mean and what pop culture can mean, I find that deeply frustrating. When there's like a blue pill, red pill meme picture, and it's always something ridiculous like the blue pill is, you know, woke culture, and the red pill is reality, you know, something that completely fundamentally misunderstands everything about the piece of media that they're talking about. So that's, I guess, another reason why I find Elon Musk unbearable. Here's my kind of conclusion, my final thoughts on Elon Musk as I keep referring to him as a character because I find him to be sort of a caricature of himself in many ways, which is also something interesting. But here's my sort of a rounded up version of my thoughts. It's hard and probably unfair to talk about Musk without talking about the companies he runs that people are understandably interested in and invested in, like personally invested. The man himself has made it very hard to be personally invested in his companies because his own poisonous egomania is the lifeblood pulsing through them, or at least seems to be. And he works very hard to keep up that appearance that despite not starting Tesla. Things like Tesla and SpaceX and Twitter even now, X rather, wouldn't be. They wouldn't succeed if it weren't for him. That's an appearance that he tries to uphold, right? It must be so disappointing and embarrassing for a person who was a fan of what Musk at least seemed to be in the past, right? An environmentalist doing great work in normalizing and even making cool electric vehicles, bringing that more into the mainstream, being a big sci-fi nerd and a gamer. Hey man, like I said, I like Ian Banks too. Being a sci-fi nerd youth who looked at the stars and dreamed of exploring up there, and then founded a company, SpaceX, that is genuinely doing and accomplishing really great things for spaceflight. In my ideal world, you should be able to separate the enjoyment and support of those companies from whoever sits in the big chair. But because these projects are all helmed by an egotistical monster with no consistent or acceptable ethics, you just can't. He has removed the ability for a lot of his support base to support him. And again, if you read Character Limit, you'll get a sort of first-hand insight as like a microcosm of that within Twitter, where, there were the people that were excited based on the good things that he's done with companies, and maybe this will move in a really positive direction, becoming immediately disillusioned with that when he's firing everyone and just messing everything up. It's sad, and I think the answer, the solution to this, as with many of our problems, is to adapt our systems so that one person is not able to acquire that much wealth and power so as to become the head of all of these companies, surrounded by yes men who just do whatever he says and allow him to do whatever he wants, even when it's destructive to not just the company but society. Or we fire him and his fellow billionaires via rocket into the sun. That's just a backup plan. I'm just throwing that out there. Thank you so much for listening. Leave your thoughts down below. I know this can be very contentious because, as I say, Elon Musk as a person is a complicated character with a complicated history who has, in the running of several companies, accomplished great things. And if anyone wants to defend those great things, I think that is understandable. At the same time, if anyone feels that those great things are being used as a defense for someone who is incredibly corrupt, affecting the very culture and society of their country, that is also very valid. So I would ask that in your discussions you try and remain as polite and understanding as you can. Don't be an asshole. Unfortunately, most of the people who are assholes in the YouTube comments don't get this far in a video. They usually see the title, maybe watch a few minutes, and then they start typing away. So the people that are at this point here with me, you're probably my good regular chums anyway, so well, thanks for being here. Do give this video a like if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you haven't already. If you didn't see the last video, I did genuinely make Elon Musk my AI girlfriend, so you can go and watch that if you're so inclined. It was very silly. If you like this video and what I do here, you can become a channel member. You get some silly little emotes and comment priority. Do consider checking out Ground News using the link down below. I think it's a genuinely great tool for your news consumption. The best way to support this channel is via the Patreon. With that, I must give a big old thank you and a shout out to my giant chickens and colossal quackers over on Patreon, especially Conla. God damn it, Conla. Most importantly, have yourselves a very lovely week, and I will see you really soon.